So, listen, I know the committee's heard this bill before. I think I've presented this bill to this committee probably at least 5 times before. I know you heard it last year, you heard it every year, and you heard it earlier this session. I'm not sure I wasn't here for your hearing, so I don't know if you had a chance to consider these articles, but I've handed up a couple things. Number one, the first article I've handed you is from the Koch Institute, which I think everybody knows who the Koch Institute is, and it specifically talks about the Virginia system, and why Virginia is the lowest in the country. Threshold doesn't work, it doesn't make sense from a policy level. I attached a document from the Commonwealth Institute half sheet, which explains why Virginia's system doesn't work and doesn't make any sense. I attached a listing from the Pew report last year, which shows that altering the misdemeanor felony threshold line, the felony threshold does not affect crime rates. That was a nationwide study. There's a couple of tables I pulled out here. One table, the first table shows property crime in the United States in 2015. It shows that Virginia's larceny thefts per 100,000 people is right in the middle of the pack, even though we have a threshold which is the lowest, which would tend to undermine the idea that the threshold affects crime. And there's also a separate table showing crime in the United States, property crimes in the United States by 100,000 people, and shows pretty much the same thing. Our crime rate is dead in the middle of the United States. Our threshold doesn't seem to do anything in terms of affecting our crime rate, which I think is something you all asserted to me here and there previously. 2 things I wanted to say really quick about. Number one, one thing I don't know if you all have thought about, but leaving this, I know one of the things I always hear back is, well, all these $500 grand larcenies get reduced to misdemeanor. I'll tell you, that's a problem, because the fact that you've been charged with felony grand larceny shows on your record, even if after it's reduced. You cannot get a charge expunged. You cannot get the aspect of the felony charge expunged if it's reduced to misdemeanor, or if it's reduced to misdemeanor and dismissed pursuant to an agreement. And the fact that the felony charge shows on there can affect people's employment. When an employer sees your record, sees that at some point you were charged with grand larceny, it doesn't say whether you were charged with stealing an iPod or stealing a car. And the fact that it shows a felony charge that was reduced still gives employers pause in hiring somebody. If it starts off as petty, I think a lot of employers will give somebody the benefit of the doubt, and maybe give them that interview, or maybe hire them. But the fact that they start off as grand larceny, I think, affects a lot of people. And there's no way to really measure that, but I can tell you that it does. And it's a lot easier to get criminal background checks than it's ever been. The second thing I'll say is that leaving this threshold at $200 is not tough on crime. It just isn't. And I know some of you may feel differently, but the reason it isn't is because every system that I've practiced in puts their felonies on a separate docket. That means that when somebody starts off as a felon, it doesn't go on the officer's regular traffic docket, the regular misdemeanor docket, which they have to be in court for anyway. The officer has to make a special trip to court.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the Senator a question? Senator, would it not be softer on crime to move the larceny threshold up? Would that not be a softer stance on crime?
No,
It's not.
I don't think it is. I think to move it up to $500 would be tougher on crime. I'm explaining why.
Try.
Okay.
It would never be on a no-spin zone, that's for sure. This is going to be some good spin if it's tougher.
Well, here's why. It's because every time a police officer has to come to court for a $201 felony or a $499 felony, it takes them off the street for 2 hours. And it takes a prosecutor off the other violent crime cases and causes them to focus their time on doing something. Everybody knows what they're going to do is reduce it down to misdemeanor instead of focusing on more serious crime, focusing on violent crime, focusing on felonies that have a much more significant, worse impact.
Or people who have small amounts of marijuana, focus on them too.
Focus on other crimes that deserve more attention rather than sitting there and basically checking boxes. What they do is knock something down to misdemeanor. So the last thing I'll say is that in my experience, most of the people that are committing these low-dollar felonies, they're not sort of devious criminals. They're not people that are out there sort of looking to game the system. You're talking about drug addicts, and you're talking about people with serious depression problems, and that's pretty much it. There's very few people that go and steal like, $200 items, that, millions, bunches and bunches of them to put them on eBay or whatever. You're talking about people who have drug addiction or people who are mentally ill, who need help. And so I don't think that leaving this threshold at $200 is really solving any problems other than keeping our call attorneys and our police unnecessarily busy and not focused on things that would be focused on. And that's why I think raising $500 is tough on crime.
Chairman Baxter, Senator question.
Sure.
So Senator Surovell, you're saying that you don't think, or you know, that there's a lot of people out there stealing based on the 200 level and stay intentionally under the $200. You think this, or do you know this?
I've never represented anybody who you know, again, I don't represent lots of poor people, you know, I mean, people that can't afford me obviously don't hire me, and there's a lot of theft crime where obviously some people are stealing a lot of money, they're not gonna go out and hire somebody like me to represent them, but the cases that I've seen, and I've talked to other lawyers about, I don't think somebody sits there and makes the decision to steal or not to steal based on the threshold. Most people I represent had no idea the threshold was $200 when they come to see me, and they're shocked as a
I
fact.
would, so you've spoken to a lot of defense lawyers. I recommend you speak to retailers and also law enforcement officers who actually catch people who talk about specifically stealing just up to under $200, including organized gangs that do it.
I think that's
Because it absolutely does happen.
I've been in this fight for 8 years now, 8 sessions now, and I know the retailers say that, and I've heard them say that. I think it's a very small percentage of the crime that goes on. That's my perspective.
Delegate Klein. Quick question for the patron. You just mentioned that most of the individuals who commit these types of crimes have some kind of substance abuse problem or some kind of mental illness.
Correct.
In your experience, that probation at the general district court level is better suited to identify substance abuse and mental illness than the circuit court and probation level? Or would you agree that someone at the circuit court level is more likely to get the services they need for their substance abuse problems and their mental illness?
Well, I would agree with the gentleman that first of all, I can't speak to other jurisdictions outside Northern Virginia, and I would suspect that in Northern Virginia we provide extra local money to provide more robust probation services and stuff in general. But circuit court is obviously a little more hands-on than GDC, but I think most of these $500, sub-$500 grand larcenies that are reduced to misdemeanors end up staying in GDC anyway. They never go to circuit. The reduction happens before they go upstairs, so I'm not sure that makes a big difference.
I mean, the difference though is that the defendant pleads guilty, right?
Sorry, what?
No, the difference of what you're describing, so you've got a $450 larceny case. Right now it's charged grand larceny.
Right.
Just like speed-related cases, most courts have an amount that they will go over the amount, in this case 200, but just like a reckless driving at 80, you'll almost never see it. It goes up to different places, 85 or something. There's some zone in which prosecutors and judges routinely reduce.
Almost always.
Almost always, that's right. And so, but the difference is, in a $180 shoplifting, you are continuing it, you're drilling down on your hard cross-examination, you're doing all that you can because you have nothing to lose. Whereas if you have a $450, I mean, you're taking a weekend in jail, you're doing all of these things so that it will become a misdemeanor, so that your client, I mean, how is this going to be easier on the cops when it's a misdemeanor than a felony? I don't want to argue with you. I think that's you come in with arguments every year. That one is the one that jumps the shark, and we go, oh, come on,
Because if it's dealt with on their misdemeanor docket, they got to be there anyway. It's not taking them off the street when they could be doing other cases. They're there in court anyway. And so it allows them to deal with this while their other misdemeanors and not have to come to some special day on the street for 3 to 5 hours.
to treat it like a speeding ticket. To treat it like a speeding ticket. I mean, no,
Right.
The only penalty is a fine, and there's a bill in a second that's going to say you don't even have to pay the fine if it's a non-driving.
You go to jail if it's in general district court. I mean, there's people who go to jail in general district court all the time.
For first offense shoplifting. I
Yeah.
travel far around. I mean, I've been seeing it for the $190 shoplifting.
Prince William County used to have a jail-only policy because they had problems at Potomac Mills when I started practicing. Prince William County would demand jail on every single shoplifting, no matter whether it was
So did I when I
misdemeanor.
was a prosecutor. I'm just saying that's not the, I mean,
Statewide, there's no.
yeah, it's just a joke. Okay, thank
Just
you.
a practice.
Anybody else have any questions for the patron? Okay, thank you. If you could stay close. Secretary Moran, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Surovell has done a great job. I appreciate his passion on this. It's one that's shared. I would just offer, yes, I assume that nothing I say to you will probably change y'all's mind, but a visual aid maybe will be more compelling than anything I say. If you look at where we are with respect to Virginia and the other states, I mean, it's pretty drastic. Where other states, conservative states, and
Delegate Alba has a question for the secretary. Yes, sir.
My eyeglasses broke, so I don't know where's Virginia on the top.
It's tough. Very tough.
$200 in New Jersey, and it goes all the way down to
I know where you can get another pair just like
$2,500 in Wisconsin and Colorado. But I would say that the case I had just before this position was a young student out of a local university that stole a pair of UGG boots from Nordstrom, so it was $210. If she had stolen them at JCPenney's, it wouldn't have been a felony. If she got that felony conviction, she would have lost her scholarship at the local university and dropped out of college. So there are tremendous societal costs, and we appreciate whether or not, in the senator's argument about putting police, taking them off the street, but there are a myriad of societal costs across of going in this direction. Other states, and the gentleman from Almar last time asked me about the crime rates, and I'm not sure what you were referring to, but we've gone back to the crime rates in the Pew Research and other Koch Institute, and the crime rate, frankly, as I recall, was 18 out of 23 states that actually went down, but at worst, they remained even. It did not impact the crime rates in the states that lowered their, or increased their larceny threshold.
And again, that's because we're already so low because of the hard work that the gentleman and some of us up here have been working on for 20 years. Virginia is so low, it's hard to get much improvement. The rates, the states that have had great improvement still are not as good as Virginia is today. And it's because they were so bad that even getting better is still nothing we should seek. But, okay. Anybody have any questions for the secretary?
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You're always welcome. Thank you. Yeah,
Good visual,
it is. That's pretty.
pretty compelling.
Bring it back next year. Yes, sir. Mr. Moss.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jack Moss, again representing the Virginia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. We are in support of the bill. The threshold for grand larceny was enacted in 1960. It was at $50. It went up to $100 in 1966. It went to $200 in 1980. When it went to $200, a dozen of eggs cost 89 cents. The standard cost 15 cents. Milk costs only $1.60 a gallon. Everything has gone up. I understand the concern that's been expressed about this being a cost of living allowance for thieves. But the fact of the matter is that by keeping the threshold so low, we are creating a whole new class of felons. Young people, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, before their brains are fully developed, these people are stealing one another's cell phones, doing small stuff, and they end up, as the senator said, felony record, without the ability to get a job. You can't vote, you can't sit on a jury. We are disqualifying large groups of citizens by keeping this limit so low. So we support the bill and ask the committee to report it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, my name is Chris Bronick. I'm Vice President of the Thomas Jefferson Institute for Public Policy, and want to point out that the views I express here today are shared by such organizations as Prison Fellowship, the American Conservative Union Foundation, and Right on Crime, which includes among its signatories former U.S. Attorney General Ed Meese and former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli. I'll let the written record stand for itself, but I do want to point out the charts that are there and explain them. If we compare states with themselves in a before and after picture, we find that the trend lines of those states, whether they were high or low, remain unchanged after they raised the larceny thresholds in those 23 states that did so between 2001 and 2011. Those charts are attached, and I'd also point out that, more importantly, the value of the state's felony theft threshold, whether it's at $500, $1,000, or $2,000, is not at all correlated with property crime and larceny rates. Florida, for example, treats theft as a felony if the value of stolen money or goods exceeds $300, but its property crime and larceny rates are considerably higher than those in Pennsylvania, where the threshold was $2,000. And so we believe that the time is overdue to reform this, and we encourage it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Sally Andrews Gudis, and I'm here today on behalf of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All the statistics have been given, and most of the studies that I have referenced in my notes that have been referred to, it's obvious that, to me at least, that we need to increase the felony threshold at least to $500. That would be a good first step. Because of all the statistics you've just heard and my agreement with them, I just want to say that it's really important for you as our representatives to consider the human impact of being charged with a felony and how that follows you throughout your life. Actually, as a former HR staff person, I can tell you it definitely follows a person into their employment. It follows people initially sometimes into the need for child care. If they are incarcerated, it increases the number of folks incarcerated in our state. And in addition, has even impact on housing. So I just would ask you to really think about the impact it has, and that I really would like to see Virginia take more of a leadership role. It's the contiguous states to us, North Carolina, Maryland, and DC, all have at least $1,000 felony threshold. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the crime rates of those states that you want to stimulate. So North Carolina is 19th worst. Maryland is 28th worst. This is just nonviolent crime. Virginia is 41st worst. Now, I'm not, just like when this came through the House, I'm not claiming that this is the only thing, but for people that ask us to look to other states so that we can learn from their example, to make it easier for thieves to steal and not face consequences for their action, which is what this bill would do. And then they try to draw large societal benefits from the crime rate. I mean, somebody pays for this. The stores pay for this, the people that work in the stores pay for this. We have a whole industry called loss prevention, which is this Orwellian, bizarre wording for something. We just have to have all this work and cameras and guards and magnetic things you walk through the door. What does that come from? It's because people steal.
Well, I would just say that I don't have access to all of those statistics, but I do know that Secretary Moran compared over from 2000 to 2013, the Department of Criminal Justice Services compared 4 states that raised and 4 states that lowered, and during that 13-year period of time that there was little evidence that there was any increase in shoplifting. But again, I ask you to think about the human impact. I'm here from the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. We are a statewide ecumenical organization that asks you to think beyond just, how to be tough on crime. So I would just ask you to please consider the human toll that it does take, and the fact that with just simple inflation, $200 in 1980 when it was last changed is now $585 with inflation.
Delegate
Ma'am,
Miller.
I'd like to comment on your statement. I do vote on this because of the human impact. That is the way I vote. But I'm voting for a victim, not a thief. There are people, if they have $200, if they have $199 stolen from them, there are people that will lose their apartment. There are people, if they have $199 stolen from them by a thief, they will have their car repossessed. I think of the human impact when I vote against this legislation, because I think of the victim of the crime, not the thief.
I think then you would also want it to be an effective measure, and again, from the studies that have been presented, I think it's clear that it is not effective. Are there any other questions?
That's a question.
Comments?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Tell us your name. Tell us your council. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Josie Mace, New Virginia Majority. I'm not going to be too repetitive here. I just want to echo what some of the folks before me have said, and just think about the human impact. We ruin people's lives by essentially putting a scarlet letter on them for a stupid mistake they made, at some point in their life, whether it be when they were 18 or what have you. And we wish you would support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Miller.
I'd just like to make a statement because I agree about the human impact, and a thief can often ruin a person's life. And so I'm voting for that person whose life could be ruined because of something that was taken from them by a thief.
Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, it's Ms. Branch Kennedy again with Resource Information Help for the Disadvantaged and Disenfranchised. Most of our members, their families, many have incarcerated loved ones or people who have been affected by the criminal justice. We actually even have victims on it that, as well as members. So, here's the thing, we all make mistakes. And I hear the legislator here, with all due respect, say thief. Young people make mistakes all the time. We all make mistakes. No one in here is perfect. And I do not condone any kind of criminal act. So instead of, I just ask, out of respect of young people that do commit, just say they committed a crime. Let's not label them young people as thieves. They're not thieves, they stole something, they committed a bad act, and we need to address that. But when we address that, it's time for us to be fair about things and be realistic about things. Why are we increasing what is called mass incarceration? Because that's where it leads to when we have such a threshold that is $200 and they make a mistake and now you ruin their record. They cannot go get a job. They cannot do so many things that we want them to be rehabilitated from. But we take away all of those things from them. So what does that lead for them to do? But to commit additional crimes to survive. So I'm not making light of it, but I think it's time that we become more realistic and let's deal with the problems and the underlying and harshness for somebody, a first-time offender, or somebody that stole once, so you're going to ruin their entire life because they made a mistake, says that nobody, that says to me that no one on here has ever made a mistake in their life. And if y'all haven't made a mistake in your life, and if this is how you would want to be treated, then so be it, I respect that. But I just think that we need to look at our young, because those are the ones that are mostly, we're winding up in courts and things like that, and we're branding them for that on the first mistake that they may have made on it. And I just say that we need to be the victim, yes, because I've been a victim of that. Please remember, I've been a victim of that. And I know my time is up. In fact, identity theft I've been made a victim of just this year, to the worst kind. So I understand that, but I do think that we need to look at the thresholds and move with the times and make some changes on it. Virginia's really behind the wheel and not in front of the wheel. It is not driving the car towards reducing mass incarceration. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. All right, anybody else want to speak against the measure? When do you guys go back in? So there's no Delegate Senator Vogel, where you? All right. No,
Against the measure?
no. Anybody else to speak in favor of the measure? I'm sorry. To speak in favor of the Senator's bill.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Maurer. I'm with the Virginia Catholic Conference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The Catholic bishops of the Commonwealth have long supported this measure. It's been decades since we've raised the threshold. It has not kept up with inflation. Delegate Miller, we would certainly agree with your point if these harsh punishments were shown to be a deterrent, but the data just does not support that. And so supporting...
What about right and wrong? You're the church.
Excuse me?
I said, what about right and wrong? I mean, you're the church. Last time I checked, it was still one of the 10 commandments. I mean,
The position of the bishops is that the purpose of all law enforcement is to keep society safe and to restore the perpetrator of the crime. And so,
so literally they focus on the
must be
interest
struck.
of the, so the interest is to restore the perpetrator of the crime. Not one of your commissioners who says, it's like Mr. Miller said, I'm having trouble making car payments, somebody stole my paychecks, somebody swiped it. I mean,
yeah, both are important, of course, Mr. Chairman, and we support legislation that strikes a proper balance. And because the threshold hasn't been raised in decades, has not kept with inflation, we believe that...
what's the proper punishment for someone who steals $350 worth of stuff? I'm asking you right now. Because if it's a misdemeanor, what you get is a $100 fine, which again is another bill that says you don't even have to pay. You're not allowed to go back to the store. sometimes they'll make you pay restitution, although they never seem to follow up on that either, we found. So if the only punishment is for a misdemeanor, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, we understand these arguments. We think that it depends on the circumstances and that judges should have a proper discretion to figure out the best punishment.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. All right. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the bill? We have, the senators go back in what, 3 minutes?
We're trying to figure that out.
Okay. All right, I think if you're against the bill, I guess.
Yeah, 4:30 we're supposed to be on the floor, but I'm trying to figure out if we're actually going next.
Not
there.
Don't worry about it, you'll be.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
I'll never vote for
Delegate
I'd
Adams.
like a chance to speak to the bill.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just briefly. And I'd just like to say, I'm in support of the measure, and I think some of the arguments that have been made for and against are unfortunate. I don't think the measure is to say that larceny is excused or larceny is moral. It's a question for me about making a distinction in petty crime and felonious crime. And if the petty crime is based on a variable changes with time and economics, then at some point it needs to be addressed. So whether it is a particular dollar amount is not a question of judgment. I mean, it is a question of judgment, not a question of morality, is the way I would see it. So if this is not the right time, maybe it's not the right time. In my view, it is the right time, but I understand how there can be a difference of opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the gentleman have a motion? Was that a motion or just a?
No.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Like I said, we have other people who are going to speak. We also have 21 bills left, if ever left. Is there a motion?
I'll move the report.
Okay. Motion is made to report in second.
Motion to pass the bill by and go.
Okay. There's been a motion to PBI the bill and seconded.
That's all the Senate.
Delegate Alvo.
I'd like to speak to the PBI. I'm going to vote to PBI, but you know, I mean, in 40 years, is this still going to be 200? I mean, what needs to happen is you need to come here with a compromise bill. I just gave a speech 30 minutes ago about a compromise. Like, everything from 0 to 200 remains the same. Everything from 200 to 500 is 10 days automatic jail, mandatory minimum. I mean, because people keep on trying to stick a round hole in a square peg around here and it doesn't work. But retailers, eventually it's going to happen, and if you're not in the game trying to get it the way you like it, then you're not going to like the results.
Okay, I'm not sure if that was for or against, but if somebody wants to, on the PBI, you have 2 minutes on each side. I'll kind of split that in half, but, all right. Anybody else need to be heard? All right, the motion before us is to PBI. All in favor of the motion to PBI signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. No.
I think, because it's PBI, we need to show hands. Okay. All right. All right, senators, do you have time to